Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest in the ValuesJam guest session series. And Houefa, great to have you here. To start with, please introduce yourself and tell everybody about the great work that you do.
Hi, hello, Highland. So my name is Houefa, and I'm an independent HR consultant and coach. And I'm working with individuals and organizations on all the HR transformation. Actually, I work in corporate culture and talent of the employees because I really feel that the two pillars are very important in the organization. And my aim is to, how I can say, to link, to rebuild trust between employees and their organization.
Wow, and much needed, right? Because
Yeah,
in the past, I think there was a situation where the company or the organization had all the power, and the employee maybe felt obliged that they had to give what the organization was asking of them and had no choice. Whereas now it seems things are changing and the individual seems to have more power. Do you sense that?
yeah, I sense that. And personally, I think it's not the organization to have the power of employees to have the power. It's very balanced to have harmony, if I can say, between those two, between employees and between process and organization, because I really feel and trust. And I think that we can build a better, I would say, environment, society, if you have the both working together.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always been fascinated by the terminology and language used in human resources. You know, even that term, human resources, kind of implies that these are just units of people that we need to manage to be as productive as possible, right?
Yeah.
So let's choose a card from the ValuesJam card deck. So here's
Yeah.
actually the reason this is looking a bit scruffy is this is the first um trial pack that we had made 2 years ago.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've just chosen to use it all the way through. I've got all the nice ones ready to be sent out over there. So how many piles would you like me to make in front of me, Wefa?
um, five.
Five, okay. And I'm not going to make them all the same size. They're going to be different sizes. And so now I've got five. So from my left to my right, left is number one, and then two, three, four, five. So which number pile would you like?
Three.
Three, the middle one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18 cards. So number between 1 and 18.
Eight.
8. Okay. Well, I wonder what you're going to think of this. Independence. And
Independence.
yeah, the first question is what does independence mean? And what does it look, feel, and sound like?
Wow. What does it mean for me, I suppose?
Yeah, well, in any
Yeah.
context, it's up to you.
I think for me, it means that I can do what I want to do without any constraint.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think for me, it's like I can do what I want to do without any constraints, with what I want to do, what I want to say, what I want to behave, to act. It's something around that, independent. And when I saw the card, the first thing in my mind was independent globally around countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So I
Yeah.
say, oh, and for me, what does it mean?
Yeah, and what's the connection between those two then? Because you know, when you're referring to countries gaining their independence, that's very much like you were describing, right? So those countries no longer are answerable to what they were previously, and now they're on their own. They can make their own choices, do what they want to do. So it's very similar to what you described, right?
Yeah.
And the words that came into my mind actually when I showed you the card, um, there were two contradictory words actually. So the first word I thought of when I thought of independence was freedom.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm able to do whatever I want kind of thing, that thing. But then I don't know why, very quickly came after that loneliness. Because
Mm,
if you are independent and you're not dependent on anybody, then perhaps there is a sense of being on your own. Uh, what do you think of that?
yeah, yeah. But actually, yeah, I was thinking about freedom, but I said, no, it's not really freedom. And as you say, being independent, I would say, okay, I'm alone with me. I count on me, but can I really be alone? I
Yeah,
mean, we need others to exist, to live. So yeah, it's a contradiction because I think we can be independent, but not 100% independent. We need others.
yeah. So maybe are you describing then independence as a kind of state of mind rather than a physical
Mm,
state?
yeah, yeah. And as well, you can be independent, but if you, for example, if you don't respect others, for me, being, it's not okay for me. I think
Yeah.
you can be independent, but I will say with around others and to be, yeah, to respect others, to not only to say, okay, I want to do that and I don't care if it can hurt someone or it can, no, for me, it's not that independent. So it's very difficult to define it at yeah, you are independent, but you belong to I would say a system, an environment where you have to be aware of this.
Yeah. And you've made me think of teenagers, actually. So, yeah, I don't know what you were like as a teenager, but I remember attaching a lot of importance to my independence. I didn't want to be
Yeah.
told what to do. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And then as you become a bit more mature, you realize that that independence is maybe not as great as it was made out to be, and that actually interdependence, when you're with
Oh,
other people and each depending on each other,
yeah.
is a much kind of more fulfilling
Mm.
place. And
Yeah, you're right.
what about the metaphor? So just to open up that kind of creative side of your mind. And when you think about independence, what images come to mind? What feelings come to mind? What sounds come to mind?
Wow, independence. I was thinking about the movie
Yeah,
Independence Day.
yeah.
And yeah, I was thinking about this movie, and I was thinking about someone, yeah, someone alone.
Okay. Yeah, I think of celebrate, you know, we're coming up to the 4th of July, and Americans make a big deal of their Independence Day. And actually, somebody I was, oh yeah, it was in Santa, you know, we were talking earlier about Saint Emilion. We visited a vineyard, and there were some American people there as well on the tour. And this American guy said, yeah, soon we've got Independence Day coming up. And he said, sorry for that. And I said to him, there's no need to apologize. We find it a real challenge to run our own country, let alone somebody else's as well. So, and what about sounds? You said the movie, but anything in the way of sounds that comes to mind?
Yeah, it sounds like proud. Yeah, we want to fight for what we trust. Yeah, it's how I don't know how to explain to it, but for me, the sound it's like something that yeah we are proud. We want to stand and to defend what we want to defend. I don't know
Yeah,
if
so
you see what. I
So
mean.
it might be the national anthem for it.
Yeah, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. I know
Instead.
you've just made me picture now, like when in the Olympic Games, for instance, the athletes that come first, second, and third, I can see the picture of them standing there with their arm on their heart and listening to their national
Yeah.
anthem. Yeah, okay. So let's move on to a bit more detailed question. And the question is, where have you noticed a lack of independence? So where is
Ah.
it missing?
Um, I don't know if it is a lack of independence, but in my mind, um, I think sometimes in some organization, in companies, employee can have a lack of, I don't know if it is independence, but perhaps autonomy. I don't know if
Yeah,
it is the right word, but uh, where they have to, how I can explain to it. Um,
they have to ask permission.
yeah, they have to ask permission. They they can't be who they are. They have to be to wear a mask and not
Yeah,
to be independent of where they think, they feel, and what they want to defend. I don't know if it is clear for you,
yeah,
but this is the
it
image
is.
which came into my mind. That in some organization, you are not really independent in face to who you are, what you think, and what you want to, how you want to behave.
Yeah, so there's, and again, I can relate to this. During my career, things have changed quite a bit because I remember feeling a big obligation to have to be like everybody else
Mm,
in an organization. So the way you dress, the way you speak, all of that. And now, of course, maybe in the last 10 years or so, there's been a lot of focus and a lot of talk about bringing your whole self to work and being yourself and diversity and inclusion
yeah,
initiatives. Um, but I don't know. I feel that they've not really addressed the core issue because I don't know what your experience is, but you can have an organization that has a diversity and inclusion senior manager, and it has all the policies and everything else, but it doesn't feel as though everybody can be themselves.
yeah. It's only on the paper, but
Yeah,
not real, real. And yeah, I think that a lot of organizations try to work on it so that people can be who they are, really are in companies. But sometimes, yeah, you have some processes, some policies which say, okay, you have to act like that. And I think it's not always easy to employees to really be who they are when you have some processes or policy who says the contrary.
yeah, that's true. And also, I think just now you mentioned the word respect for other people, right? You said about independence, it's not okay when it's just one way. And I find this a real challenge because on the one hand, I agree that, you should be yourself or feel that you can be. But then on the other hand, I also respect is really important to me. And
Yeah,
so you wouldn't want people being themselves to the extent that they are
yeah.
upsetting somebody else or confusing, all of that stuff. So how do you strike a balance? You're in the human resources field, so where's that fine balance?
But as you say, it's respect. I think if you are aware of the others, the I would say the values of the others, the what they feel, what they think, it's how my independent can, I would say, be aligned with the independent of the other person. And for me, it's respect. If you are
Yeah.
aware of the other person, you are aware of the values of the other person, you are aware of his or her thinking, and you say, okay, I can understand this person. I can understand, for example, my behavior can harm this person. So I would say, okay, I will step back. I would talk with this person and see how we can, I would say, live together in this environment. For me, it's respect. Yeah, it's be
Yeah.
aware that I'm not alone and the other is not me. And the other person has his own values, has his own beliefs, has his own emotion. And we have to I would say, to build together a new relationship with respect.
Yeah. And again, let me ask you a question about how far that respect can go. And this was as a result of a conversation with a guy, I think it was a LinkedIn exchange, actually. He's in the US. And he said something along these lines that, yes, it's important to respect other people as long as you are not betraying your core values.
Yeah,
And I thought it was the
difficult.
first time I had heard anybody say something
Yeah,
like that.
it's
And I think it's a really important one.
yeah.
So just as a very simple example, imagine that honesty is very important to you, and somebody in your organization says, we need to uh, change the numbers in a report so that it looks like we've hit our targets this month.
Mm.
So, and they might be senior to you. So it's a really difficult situation because, yes, you respect them, you respect their role in the organization, maybe they're your boss, but
But
yeah, and you
you
have
have
to
to
make a choice,
respect
right?
your values as well.
Yeah. And again, it's not so easy because, yes, it's easy for the two of us to be here on this call saying, of course, you should stand up for your values. But if you're in this position and maybe you're fearful of your job and you're not sure you're going to be able to get another job easily, I can understand why some people might not hold their values true and they might be compromised.
Yeah, you're right. And it's very difficult because you say, this is my values, but I have the environment where I have a job, I have some charges, and I have a family. So what should I do
Yeah.
with this situation, with this context? And sometimes it's not easy because you can't just say, okay, I'm going to leave, find another job. No, it's not as easy as we said. And sometimes, yeah, you can really be, how I can say, thinking with yourself what I have to do. And sometimes it can be really difficult for you to find the solution. And you are not comfortable in your job, you are not comfortable with your family because you are thinking about this situation and say, what should I do? What should I do? And it's not easy. It could be very difficult for you if you have to face this kind of situation.
Yeah. And I think what you've touched on there is really important, that you have the choice to choose the time frame that you deal with the situation, right? You don't have to leave right now
Yeah.
because this is happening. But what you might decide to do, if let's take that example, you might make the choice to do what your boss has asked you to do and falsify a report. And then you might start looking for another job, and it might take you 6 months. But that's your choice, right? And it's within your control. Okay, so that was really interesting. So that example of lack of independence. And what about the other side of the coin? When have you experienced independence, either yourself or seen it displayed by somebody else?
Mm. I would say when I started my independent job,
That
I
was
was,
quite recently, wasn't it?
sorry?
That was quite recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And so I was completely independent, but it was tricky. I say, wow, I can do what I want, when I want, but what should I do? It was very excited. I say, okay, now this is my company, so I can do what I want with my company. I can run my company how I want to run my company. So it's a kind of independence, but I say, okay, so what should I do? I don't know.
So tell me, maybe two questions. So 6 months, you said, since you
Yeah,
began your independence as a
yeah.
business. So, what is the thing that you've most enjoyed so far in the 6 months? And what is the thing that you have not enjoyed in the 6 months?
Oh, the thing I've most enjoyed is the new people I met because yeah, I think it was so impressed when I think about all the people I met during this new adventure, I would say, with different backgrounds, different thinking. They could help me during this when I started my business. I think it's really, yeah, I think this is very exciting. I love this part of I would say my new adventure. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I met a lot of different persons that I think I didn't meet if I was staying the employee because I had to find some, I would say, clients, some new solutions, and so just talking with people who say, you can talk with this person, you can talk to this person. I say, okay, okay, okay. And I met very wonderful people during this, when I started my business. So I think this is this point. And the thing I didn't really like is when you are independent, you say, yeah, I'm independent, I can do whatever I want, but you are alone.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't meet other people, sometimes, for example, here I'm in my apartment in front of my laptop and I am alone.
Yeah.
And before, when I was working in company, I had some colleagues, so I could chat with my colleagues. I could have a coffee. I have some people around me,
Yeah.
and now I'm alone. So I am
Yeah.
independent but alone.
And just think, imagine rewind to before COVID, when
Mm.
we didn't use technology like the way that we use it now. So just imagine how much less alone you are now because we're able to do this
Yeah, you're
compared
right.
to if it had been 4 years ago, then different story.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Before COVID, wow.
Just think about that for a bit.
Yeah, I think I was looking for, I would say, a co-working space to meet people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, oh yeah, I was
I,
thinking, I think yeah, I would find some a way to meet people, not to be alone.
and the just coming back to the question about what do you enjoy and what do you not enjoy so much, mine are very similar to yours. So I have totally enjoyed the variety of people that I engage with in different geographies and different
Mm,
fields, different generations. All of that variety is
yeah.
just wonderful. Um, the yeah, the bit about being alone, the time that I am a bit uncomfortable is, for instance, if something goes wrong with technology. So when you're in a company, you pick up the phone and speak to the help desk, yeah, and they just get it sorted out. Whereas now you have to unplug, plug back in, see, just experiment, go on Google, see if you can find it. So yeah, being the regional vice president of IT is not my favorite job.
I totally understand.
Now let's move on to a specific question now. So in ValuesJam, you can actually create your questions. So I'm going to invite you to do that. So ask your own question about independence, beginning with who, what, where, when, why, or how. And you can ask it to yourself and answer, or you can ask it to me and answer, and then we'll see where it goes.
Hmm. Oh, it's not easy. Um, um, I'm thinking about a how question. Um,
Here's one then. What about this?
yeah.
How how can you best encourage and assist independence?
Mm. Um, I think to encourage independence, you is based on trust. If you trust people, you can give them the place, I would say, to be independent, to express what they want to express, to be themselves. Um, so trust in yourself, and trust to the other, I think, to encourage independence.
Yeah, I don't know why again, but this has taken me back to when I was teaching my children to ride a bicycle. Um, and so I remember, I think, yeah, maybe this is a good way to think about it actually, because I remember explaining to them how cool it would be for them to be able to ride the bike on their own and for them to be able to ride to their friends and go
Mm,
out with, all of that.
mm,
So I think what I was doing was getting them to envision that future state that they wanted to happen. So that's the first thing. Then I ran with them holding their seat so to make sure they didn't fall over and hurt themselves. And then I remember letting go of the seat, but still saying that I had hold of it, so that they were actually doing it without realizing that they were doing it on their own, and then telling them. So maybe there's something about hand holding, but giving people the freedom to make some mistakes, but not so serious that they could hurt themselves, to give them confidence. And then the next stage was for them to go riding on their own, but being watched. And then it was, okay, you can go on your own, but be back at a certain time. So gradually, I think is the
mm.
kind of feeling that I'm remembering now. So how does that compare with your experience?
Yeah. Um, when I was with your experience, which came in my mind is that with independence, you can help people to build their own confidence in their capabilities and their skills, because yeah, they are more confident in what they do, what they can say, how they can behave. And actually, I didn't think that independence can help to be more confident. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you mean that you hadn't previously thought about that? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
The link between being independent, being you, uh, this means that you help people to give the space so that they can experiment, they can be proud of them, they can develop new skills, and so they can develop their own confidence,
Yeah.
their self-confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important point. And the other thing that I'm thinking of now, you know, I explained that the riding the bike thing. Some people might not choose to be so involved. You know, somebody else might say, "Oh yeah, go off on your own." But it's a personal thing, I suppose. But I'm sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? And you want to be independent, but if you don't know how to do things, then there's a risk that you're not going to do it very well. So I think it's really important to have the right level of guidance at the
Yeah,
beginning to build the confidence, build
yeah.
the capability, rather than just cut
Say,
loose.
okay, do what
Yeah,
you want.
yeah,
You're independent, do what you want.
yeah. But then the
Yeah,
person on the receiving end doesn't always appreciate the guidance, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's really a balance of how you can guide the person and let him or her try, test the things. It's
Yeah,
not to be 100% here and say you have to do that, that, that. And as well, it's not 100% do what you want. I'm not here. It's really a balance of how you can guide, support the person so that this person can develop his or her own independence and confidence.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy.
And also, if that independence is given too early, then there's the possibility if
Yeah,
somebody does something wrong, their confidence is so fragile that maybe they stop.
yeah, stopped. Yeah,
Whereas if there's somebody there for them at the beginning to explain everybody makes these mistakes, it's okay, have another go, then the independence is likely to be more long lasting and at a higher level of capability.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
What about your work in organizations? Tell me about the place of independence in workplaces. Is that anything that you've worked with explicitly?
Not explicitly, but now that you say that, I think I have to think about it. Because it's not explicitly, because for me, when you you help employees to better understand their skills, how they can use their skills, their talents, their strengths. When you give to the employees the autonomous to work how they want to work, to do the job how they want to do the job, when you recognize all the success, the work done, actually you build this independence.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
but it's
definitely
not explicit. I don't say now we are going to to work on the independence of your employees. No, it's a mix of different levels, and at the end, it's just build self-confidence and independence.
yeah. And it's so I'm thinking now specifically around human resources and training in particular. And I'm thinking back to so my original background was commercial hospitality management, and I remember in some places the training was really, really good. And it's exactly like you say, it was always working towards the person being trained being independent, but not too soon, because you
Yeah,
didn't want them kind of practicing not very well on a guest. So, really important that they went slowly and gained their capability and gained their confidence until the point where they were independent effectively. But like you say, nobody uses that language. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's not this word.
Yeah. And that's got to be in the best interest of the organization, is right? Because the more independent and as long as they're capable, the person is, the better it is because they don't need the
Yeah,
supervision. They don't need to be told what to do.
yeah, and I think it develops the creativity. because you are independent, you are confident, so you are going to try something, to test something, to say, okay, I have this idea, perhaps I'm going to test this idea, and so it develops the creativity. And for me, yeah, it's really a positive thing for the organization.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't go too far.
Yeah, always the balance.
And can you think of people that you've worked with that had taken independence too far in an organization?
Too far? No. No, I don't think I have an example where it was too far.
I'm thinking about people sometimes, and if anybody, people that are either listening to this or watching it, this is not a comment that is aimed at everybody in this field, but sometimes people in sales, individuals in particular, are those people that will break the rules, will say, oh, I don't need to do it the same way as the company says, I'll do it this way. And sometimes those people can be very successful as well.
Yeah. Oh, I see what okay. Yeah, you have some people who, I would say, who try to do something out of the box and it works. Yeah, but for me it's still I would say inside the corporate environment, because they take some risk, but not huge risk, so that it could be against the company. They mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's out of the box based on the processes of the organization.
Yeah. And again, sometimes it's not good, but then other times when people do that, actually it's better. The organization, sometimes the processes are limiting, and it takes somebody that has a slightly more independent view to see a better way of doing things compared to the way the company has laid down.
Yeah, you're right. But I think these people, they could assess, I would say, the risk. Say, okay, I understand that today the process are like that, procedure are like that, but I have another idea, another way to see, I would say, the solution, and I think it will be better for the organization. But I assess the risk, and I think I can do it, because I know it will not, I would say, explode the organization. Say, okay, it's very bad, or what you want, but they assess before the risk. They've taken to try, I would say, their idea.
Yeah, you've reminded me of a phrase. I don't know if you have an equivalent phrase in French, but in English we say, do you ask permission or forgiveness?
Yeah.
Do you have some,
Yeah.
What do you say in French?
It's the same. It's a translation.
Okay.
Do you ask for permission or for forgiveness?
Okay. So earlier you remember you were saying about sometimes employees in organizations don't display the independence. So in that example, have you worked in organizations that really focused on the permission? And have you also worked in organizations that were more saying, as long as you ask for forgiveness, go ahead and try something new? Have you experienced both?
No, not both. The first one. Personally, I experienced the first one.
It's much more common, right?
Yeah, it's much more common. But what I can see, it's not 100% forgiveness, but companies try to, I would say, to give a space. Say, okay, you can try in this space. You can try without asking for permission, but it's in very in certain context, not in all the organization. But I feel that companies try to go in this way where they can give, I would say the context, the environment where employees can try and can test something different from the process of the procedure of the company.
Yeah.
It's not easy because you have to let it go, but I can see some example where they try to be more, I would say, flexible and to give the space so that employees can think out of the box.
Yeah. I know you said it's not easy, and you're so right. I remember when I was running a hotel, I used to greet new employees that we hired personally, just because, as far as I was concerned, they were representing me and they were representing the business. So it was important that I knew every person. And I used to tell them three things. So just to give you the context, this was a five-star hotel and country club with a championship golf course, 200-acre estate, beauty spa, very nice place. So I used to tell them three things. The first thing was, remember that you are the very best person we saw, and that's why you've got the job. Sometimes people forget that bit.
Yeah, you're right.
The second thing was, if you need to do something to make a guest happy, do it, but then tell your boss quickly, just in case, anything it has been broken in the way of rules or whatever. And then the third thing was, if you cannot enjoy yourself working in an environment like this, there might be something wrong with you.
Oh.
The point here is giving people the freedom to break the rules if they needed to, and they made that judgment, but then to tell somebody else. So that was their get out. So, okay. So let's finish with, there's a very final question, but before we get to the final question, let's have a big question, which is, how could more independence improve the world?
Whoa. I don't know why, but when I think about independence, for me, it's really related to trust and respect. If you give more independence, whatever the place where you are, it's because you respect the person, you trust the person, and I would say it's a little bit positive, or I don't know how to say it, but I think if people trust themselves, respect themselves, it's just a good thing, a good point for the earth, the planet, the society. What you want. For me, it's very important to trust people, to respect people, to give them the place where they can be who they are, who they want to be. So it's linked to the independence, and this can contribute to better understand each other and to better understand the society and the place where we live.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you to talk about is how important that respect and trust is. And actually, when I listened to me asking you the question, I found myself wondering whether independence actually can improve the world, because often it's not done in the way that you've described, with that trust and respect. And in an organization, it's kind of, I think, easier because there is somebody responsible for the whole organization, right? And so in those examples of employees that we were talking about, we were saying how, well, what you do is you encourage and enable and make people capable so that they can be independent, but it's within the construct of the organization.
Yeah.
If we now think about the planet, the world, there's nobody that looks after all of the countries. The country are not answerable like in an organization.
Yeah. Mm.
And so
Mm.
it feels like there's a risk that if there is too strong a sense of independence
Ah,
without the respect and the
respect.
trust,
Yeah, you're right.
then it actually is the opposite of helping because everybody is potentially like this.
Yeah, you're right. It's very it's a balance because as you say, if you are I would say over independent, you will just say this is me, and you don't have any connection between each other. You don't have respect anymore. You don't have trust anymore, and it's very difficult because, as you said, you have no one, nothing to to manage it at the world level, if I can say. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's each person who has to find this balance between respect, trust, and independence.
Mm.
And
And
it's not
actually,
easy. No.
and you've reminded me when I had teams of senior leaders, they were all responsible for different functions, right? So I would have the head chef and the operations manager, the human resources director, the finance director, all of that. Now, I'm just thinking back actually to our board meetings when, yes, when they are responsible for their function, I wanted them to feel independent and to run their function the very best way they could. That's fine. But then when we were together as a senior leadership team, I remember I used to say to them, can you please now take off
Yeah.
your functional leadership hat and put on your leadership hat for the whole company? Because, for instance, we're going to make decisions about where we're going to spend money next year. And I wanted to avoid them just fighting for their little bit of the business and
Yeah.
instead thinking more widely.
Yeah.
So again, I'd be interested in your view about that and whether you experienced anything similar or different.
Yeah. It's with your example, it's in some context, you have to forget about your own independence to think widely and how we can work together to build something together without thinking I would say my own independence. It's independence of the group, if I can say. It's
Yeah.
not individual independence, it's a group independence. And in your example, it's for the company. Say how we can think together and build something new together.
So what you've
Yeah.
described there is it's like two levels of independence.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think that's a
Yeah.
really go on.
No, because I'm thinking about what with your example, and yeah, you have the individual as individuals, we have our own independence, but in some situation, we have to think globally with a collective way. So as a group, not as individual.
Yeah. So I think that's a really thoughtful note for us to kind of bring this values jam to a close. And the final question is this: what are you encouraged to do differently about independence as a result of our conversation today?
I think I will keep this idea of how express independence as a group, as a collective. It's yeah, I think I'm going to to think about it because it's a new way to see this value independent, where we was talking about the person independent as a person, but how does it look like as a group of people independence? How we
Yeah.
can yeah, express it.
And my thinking is going the same way. And up until this conversation, I think my perspective of independence was very inward looking. So not just personally, but even if it's say a country, I was thinking, oh yeah, well the country becomes independent, so it can do what it wants to do for itself. But actually, I'm now thinking that independence at a stronger, higher level is that country saying it's not just about what we can do for ourselves, it's what we can do for the world, kind of thing, as well. Um, yeah, and I wonder, there aren't that many countries that I can think of that I can't think of any examples of countries that behave in that way. More, it's about protection and self-interest. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time on Google exploring that idea of independence at a collective level
Yeah.
rather than inward level.
Yeah. How it can serve the others, not only from
Yeah.
inside, but from outside. You're right.
So it's kind of, yeah, it's service-based independence in a way. So if you think about in a community, I'm not so sure the police force is a good example because so many police forces don't behave particularly well. But imagine a police force that is very good, right? That looks after the community very well. They are independent, they have independence, but actually it's not for them, it's for others. Yeah, so I thank you very much for leaving us with that question.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy thinking a bit more about that. So, Houefa, you are now officially a values jammer.
Oh,
So
thank you very much.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much, Alan.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.